The views and opinions expressed on this podcast are those of the speakers and do not necessarily reflect those of the ANA or its members. On today's episode of On Scope, sustainability champion Rupen Desai joins us to discuss how brands can balance the sustainability of their business with that of our planet. Also, on marketing news you might have missed, positivity? Online? Really? All that next on Scope. Hello and welcome to On Scope, the marketing podcast brought to you by the ANA and powered by Odyssey, a leading audio streaming platform. You can get your favorite podcasts, music, and entertainment on the Odyssey app. I'm your host, Mike Berberich, and with me, as always, is Ryan Dinger, producer of On Scope. Ryan, how are you, my friend?
Mike, let me tell you something. I'm excited, and you know why?
Oh, I do know
I've
why.
been waiting for this episode.
Yes,
I've been
sir.
waiting for this episode for a long time. You know, it's a conversation that we've wanted to have for years now.
Yes.
And I think we could not have found a better guest to have this conversation.
100%.
You're talking the former CMO at Dole.
Check.
Current partner at Una Terra Venture.
Check.
You got a former speaker at UN's Climate Week last year, excuse me.
Get closer to perfect.
Rupen
I dare
Desai.
you. Rupen Desai's in the house.
And here's what else. He beamed in from Singapore to have the conversation. This is now a global show, Mike, and we're talking about a global issue, sustainability.
The timing couldn't be more perfect.
You see why I'm so excited.
Absolutely, absolutely. But before we get there,
Of course.
we've got a little marketing news you might have missed.
That's right, Mike. And this week's story is actually a news item from ANA Magazine covered last week on the mag. Here's the headline for you. Study. Consumers want more positive messaging. That definitely caught my eye off the bat. Here's what we got. A new survey says people are burning out on the negativity that seems to dominate the internet and want a serious change in tune. The Power of Uplifting Content, which was released earlier this week by media brand Upworthy and market research firm Alter Agents, says that brands and organizations can boost engagement and drive purchasing by sharing more positive content. And they got some data to back that up there, Mike. The study, based on the responses of 1,350 weekly Instagram users in the U.S., found that 76% of consumers seek out, quote, feel-good content now more than ever. 82% are likely to share, quote, heartwarming content, and 86% say they are more likely to purchase from brands that make them feel positively. How about that?
So I'm like split right down the middle to wondering if you're messing with me right
I'm
now.
not. This is a real story and a real study, Mike.
And a lot of that makes perfect sense to me. If you stretch history out at a wide enough timeline, all you see is a pendulum swinging back and forth and back and forth.
Yeah.
And I mean, we've been in this cycle for a decade plus of just drama and negativity and going out there and people getting angry at the stupidest things in human history, perhaps.
Yes. Well, there's something to that idea. Quote, as negativity saturates digital spaces, consumers are clearly telling us they want something different, says Devorah Rogers, Chief Strategy Officer at Alter Agents, in a statement. He went on to say, brands have a real opportunity to cut through the noise by delivering uplifting content that resonates emotionally and drives engagement and loyalty. So basically what they're saying is if your brand can fill people with the warm fuzzies, your business will do better. And a lot of it has to do with exactly what you're talking about. The market is so oversaturated with negativity right now. People are looking for any type of escape that they can find. And that means your brand can be the escape. They're telling you, give us that escape, we'll buy from you.
That's pretty incredible. And, you know, it's really funny. Last week in my conversation with Maggie, this is sort of like the FOMO thing.
Yeah.
Oh, you're missing out. You're missing out. You're missing out. You do that to a person long enough, they don't care what else you have to say, what they're missing out on. They just view you as a downer.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And we actually saw this. We talked about this last week a little bit with the Super Bowl ads and how we felt like they were a
Yeah,
little kind of blah. They didn't really stand out to us.
totally.
Well, so we actually saw, you may say, okay, 1,300 Instagram users, like, sure, whatever.
Right.
But we actually saw this bear out with last week's Super Bowl ads. As I was reading this week in a piece from Marketing Dive that reported that inclusivity was one of the most successful strategies this year, as a raft of ads targeted at women and girls scored high marks. I remember these ads. Nike did one. The NFL had a couple.
Oh, yeah.
They were leaning into this positivity, and these are the ads that have now scored the best in terms of recall, in terms of engaging the viewer. The data is coming in and saying the people who sort of went positive, went away from the checking the boxes that we talked about last week, their ads are doing better. They're performing better. So Instagram users, and now the results of the Super Bowl ads are pointing to all this, telling brands they need to step up here and give the consumers a little bit of positivity, little ray of light.
I love that, man. I love that. And there you go. Brands have been like, how do I navigate this landscape, and how am I going to make people, oh my God, positivity and inclusivity are still winning, still undefeated? Like, sorry, like, look at the numbers and follow them. Be good marketers.
The data's there.
Absolutely.
And you're saying people are wondering what they can do, how should they respond? Well, as it turns out, the Upworthy survey had a recommendation for that.
Wonderful.
Mike. The Upworthy survey recommended that brands conduct an audit to gauge what percentage of their current content specifically seeks to provide viewers with an uplifting message and/or elevate their mood. So, a little action item there for our listeners. You need to look in, see, evaluate all your stuff. What among it can you call positive? What's doing the job? And if it's not, if that percentage is low, it's time to look at that and maybe balance the scales a little bit.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if that's going to be a splash of cold water in the face of a lot of brands.
Yeah.
So get to it, my friends. That is right after this interview, because you're not going to want to miss 1 second of my conversation with Rupen Desai. All right, everybody, we are back here at On Scope, and honestly, this might be the episode I'm most excited about so far. We are going to have a discussion that I've wanted to have for years and years, and I have found the absolute perfect guest to have that discussion with me. Rupen Desai is CMO and venture partner at Una Terra Venture capital firm. Rupen, thank you so much for being here on the pod today.
Thank you for having me, Michael.
And yes, and we're actually doing this a day-night double feature, as Rupen is currently in Singapore. Am I correct in remembering that?
Yes, you are. So whilst the fund is headquartered out of Switzerland, I do what I do, living and working out of Singapore.
Excellent. So this is truly an intercontinental episode of On Scope. And you know what? Honestly, having a global episode is pretty relevant, because we are talking about something that has to do with the entire planet today, and that is balancing business growth with sustainability and just the future of us, of everything. So, Rupen, you are on record as saying short-term profit cannot come at the cost of people and the planet. Now, that is something I agree with my whole heart, but how do we start to convince executives to move from a short-term outlook to one that takes a longer view?
Michael, you're right. I have been on record, and multiple times. I mean, I probably am a broken record that keeps saying short-term profit cannot come at the cost of either people, equity, their well-being, or the planet as we intend to live for our future generations. And somewhere that also comes from my own personal belief. You can call it my ikigai, you can call it my personal purpose, but I want to be part of building businesses our conscience can live with. And if you look at the last, I think 4 or 5 odd decades, we've been heavily influenced by this free market thinking where we've started using financial income as a proxy for success. And therefore, the world we've created assumes, whether you look at it as a economic government view like GDP, or a firm business view like profit. And the assumption is, whether through GDP or whether through profit, uh, organizations or governments need to exist to maximize those. And while rational, self-interested individuals, we will express our preference through consumer choices and maximize our income so that we can continue to express those choices. And just like a servant cannot serve two masters, business has been prioritized to put their financial income, and I'm using the word financial income, not even profit, but financial income over the needs of society. So the general underlying assumption over the last 4 or 5 decades has been that let's ignore external social or environmental costs. So yeah, if our business causes pollution, we can assume somebody else will take care of it. Or our business generates gender inequity, somebody else will take care of it. Or we can do some CSR or some other stuff, but our center of gravity business has been operating where nature and society are assumed to be infinite, are assumed to be stable, are assumed to be resources, are assumed to be used and abused, extracted from without having its responsibility from it. And what that does is I mean, again, not my words, science tells us that the world we are in today, and more importantly, the one we look to be leaving behind for our future generation, cannot be more fragile than in our entire existence. Okay, so there is a, for any company, there is a belief system fight between freedmen and freemen. I mean, Milton Friedman, in his wonderful 1971 article in New York Times, propounded saying the only social responsibility a company has is to maximize profit for its shareholders.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of what I just spoke about for the last 5 decades is a following of the Milton Friedman era. But at the same time, Edward Freeman, who's known as the father of multi-stakeholder theory, said, look, I believe a company should consider the impact of its actions on all stakeholders. So the starting point of trying to convince any executive of any business, and not just stopping there, not just executives of business, but also executives who are part of governance, whether they be at a company, whether they be as part of government, is which side of the fence between freedmen and freemen do you want your business to operate in? Do you consider the society that contributes to your business as a stakeholder? Do you contribute the planet that you extract water, energy from as a stakeholder? And do you, as a business, only consider return on financial capital? Or do you go beyond that to consider return on societal capital, return on employee engagement capital, return on planetary capital? Because if you put that science of paying the planet for the resources we extract, most businesses as they exist today will not be profitable. I mean, I've seen science which also shows a lot of oil and gas companies wouldn't be profitable if they had to pay a fair share of what they extract from nature. So somewhere we've built, I mean, if you were a movie buff and you'd seen this movie, I think it's about 20, 30 years ago, so I'm showing off my age, unfortunately. But if you looked at this movie called The Truman Show, okay, where everything was created for one human called Truman, and everything else was fake, and everything else followed a certain principle, and everybody else was acting a part. So somewhere over the last 5 decades, we're all living in a Truman Show where we believe human capital, societal capital, employee capital, natural capital can be infinite, can be extractive, don't have to be paid for. And unless our measurements of success move away from this view, we will not move away from short-term profit coming at the cost of either people or the planet.
Yeah, you're 1,000% right. And I feel like, you know, when climate change is not coming for any specific group of people, there is going to be, if we are inevitably walking down this road where it is literally just financial ROI above absolutely everybody, it's going to come for absolutely everybody. And so this is a question that, Rupen, honest to goodness, I have wanted to ask because I, on a personal level, struggle with this a bit. ANA, one of our core mission is to help our ANA members grow their business, grow their audience, grow their share of the market, and especially in burgeoning businesses or businesses that are looking to diversify, growth is an incredibly important thing. It can be an incredibly wonderful thing. But I've wanted to ask somebody, and I'm going to ask you, Rupen, is it possible for a company to become big enough? And what I mean by that is unending growth as an objective ever possible to be replaced with maintenance, optimization, perhaps dynamic output. But I think about small businesses, and you think about the pizza place that's been around for 50 years, and they do great business, and they're a profitable business, but they haven't opened 2 extra stores. They don't sell their goods around the world. In the stock market, that's a failing company. But our country's built on those small businesses. So I'm going to shut up, let you talk. Is that even a possibility in the system we're in?
Growth by itself is not wrong, right? What we're doing is we're equating growth and assuming that all growth is meant to generate good. And maybe the question, Michael, and the question we all always ask, whether it is the companies we invest in from Una Terra, whether it is from the advisory company that I have called the Shed 28. The question probably every business will need to ask is, who loses if you win? Or alternatively, who wins when you lose as a business? Because just because people are willing to pay for something doesn't always mean it's good for them. You see, people are paying for things all the time. It's not always just with money. So if your business is to sell sugar and water in a plastic bottle, every time, and look, some of these companies that sell sugar and water in a plastic bottle are some of the largest brands in the world.
Yeah.
But every time they win, so does obesity. So yes, they are growing, but in addition, what is growing is obesity. In addition, what is growing is plastic waste. So when they win, somebody is losing. It is the larger consumer health, and the food business is widely joked as being the biggest contributor to the health business now, right? Because when companies like these grow, what grows is obesity. What grows is a abuse of water, because the amount of water that is being shipped around the world is mind-boggling, right? The world, when they win, what also grows, as we will use the word growth, is the amount of plastic. I mean, and look, numbers don't lie, right? I mean, as we stand today, on the 19th of December, 2024, We have only achieved 16% of the sustainable development goals. So if we continue at this rate, we're not going to be able to reach the sustainable development goals that were intended to be reached by the end of this decade. It's going to take us 2073 or 72. Okay.
Yeah.
Uh, when we look at gender equity, okay, and as a father to two young, amazing girls, I
Mm.
don't know how to explain that it's going to take us another 132 years to reach gender equity. Or when they come to me and they're saying, why are we using so much plastic? I don't have the heart to tell them, look, 91% of the world's plastic isn't being recycled, is
Mm.
unable to be recycled. But out of the 9 that could be recycled, another 90 doesn't. So, yes, Papa can be part of, and it's many conversations about promises of 2040, 2050. The reality is, unless we put some texture behind the word growth, because even tumors grow, doesn't mean growth
Yeah.
is good, right?
Mm-hmm.
Unless we answer the question saying who's really winning, who's going to miss you when you're gone, as a business, who's going to, if when you shut down, obesity will decrease, or if you shut down, plastic pollution will decrease, then do we consider, and look, you could be, as an ANA member, you could be part of that organization, but it doesn't stop there. We could be part of ANA who celebrates them. We could be a advertising agency who helps them grow the obesity and the plastic in addition to shareholder value. We could be a PR company who helps them with some advocacy. We could be a lobbying company who helps them reduce their taxes. But if we are using our superpower to grow something which is unilateral in its definition of growth, while there is damage, it lives in
Mm.
its wake, then I don't think that growth can be equaled to, let's say, when a Tony's Chocolonely grows, we know that every time Tony's grows, there is a better amount of equity on cocoa prices experienced by the farmer.
Right.
In a business where most farmers have never tasted the chocolate that they're a part of making, or a company like the Zespri Kiwi fruit grows, where they have an amazing formula. The largest amount of benefit is for those that grow the fruit. So when those companies grow, the world becomes a bit more equal, a bit
Mm-hmm.
more sustainable as compared to other companies. And I think it is incumbent upon us as ANA, as the cohort, and I know your leadership heavily believes and supports this, that it is incumbent upon us that we don't equate all growth equally, where some growth is far more damaging to the world that we are part of, both living and creating.
Rupen, I actually love the way that you just set that up. Adding a texture under the word growth and the conversation we need to have around that. That not all growth is made the same or has equal outputs, and that a lot of growth is directly tying into sicknesses and addiction among humans. And when I was listening to you say that, this chasing this journey for never ending growth kind of feels a little bit like an addiction in and of itself. So, where is the rehab for brands where companies can kind of wean themselves off this mindset? Where are those first positive steps in the right direction?
So, Michael, I'm going to start with a Henry Miller quote, which is, one's destination is never a place, but a new way to seeing things.
Mm.
Right. And here's where I come from: a huge belief of the role of marketing in the sustainable world we desperately need. Because Because when Simon Sinek described the golden circles and all of us got excited on the why, I think we forgot the what and the how. And therefore, if we have the superpower, which we do as marketeers, as advertising agencies, as the entire ecosystem, if we have the superpowers to make sugar water in a plastic bottle, one of the largest brands in the world,
Yeah.
I want us to pause and think of the superpower we have, not what we've been using. And the rehab for brands is to move into the what and the how, not just stop at the why. It's about what we make. It's about how we pack it. It's about how we ship it. It's about what happens to consumers when they buy it. It is about moving away. See, we've created this mindless consumerism and we use our creativity. So we have these amazing concepts, fast fashion, planned obsolescence. So as soon as there is a new one, let the old one start becoming a bit slower, a bit jaded, not as good. So we've created this amazing marketing platform, this amazing marketing thinking, this amazing marketing filter called consumerism, where bigger is better, buy more, you're never going to be happy. So pair of jeans becomes not just a pair of jeans, it's a symbol of freedom, and things are a symbol of happiness. And we've been able to shape culture, we've been able to shape minds, we've been able to shape behavior. We feature in amazing films. We've got women to smoke 50, 60, 100 years ago when they weren't smoking as much. But all of this superpower, okay, to go back to Henry Miller's quote, if seen in a new way, okay, I mean, why can't we grow good stuff? Why can't we sell good stuff? Why can't we pack it in a way that's good? Why can't we ship it in a way that's good? Why can't and it's not delusional or even chaotic thinking. It's not Don Quixote on chasing windmills of La Mancha. But if a company, a multi-billion-dollar company, starts separating what they make, how they ship it, how they bring it to people, when humans consume it, what do they do with it, and start changing those, taking responsibility for society and the planet, the rehab will happen. That growth will be amazing. That addiction is what the world needs. And that creativity is something marketeers can bring. I mean, Michael, we had a seat on the table, which we, and not wanting to change this conversation, but we had a seat on the table because we knew how to create value. And over the years, our definition of value and marketing's influence on it has become shorter and shorter. And now we're the pointy end of short-term sales activation.
Yeah.
However, go back to our original superpower, which was how do I create value? And we use all this amazing creativity and technology that is at our disposal. How do I create value in having products that are good, made in a way that leave behind value across the stakeholder chain, pack it in a way, ship it in a way, get consumed in a way. When they're consumed, there is a plan. Then the same companies that we celebrate where they grow at the cost of people and planet, we will now celebrate because they create prosperity and an interdependence between people, planet, and prosperity. Because the reality is, any company which prioritizes one at the cost of the other is not good growth.
Yeah, my goodness, I love that. That is such an empowering stance to take this. Whoa, well, what are we going to do? We have the tools right now. We've had the tools for decades. It's where are we pointing, like you said, the sharp edge of the stick. Like, no, I really love that, and I really, yeah.
When will we, Michael, sorry to interrupt, but when will we
Please.
stop going to these conferences to celebrate look at my amazing TikTok promotion and saying, look, I spent and my entire team spent the last 2 years, and we've got a way where we will deliver the same value we were delivering, if not, if we can't deliver more. So today our laziness is, oh, I could be more sustainable, but the consumer's got to pay. Or I could be more
Right.
sustainable, but the consumer won't get the same experience. Or organoleptically, they won't feel the same taste. And then, so I mean, there has to be a moment where what we celebrate, what we spend our time on, what we spend our superpowers on, what we spend our energy, our existence on, is the same thing marketing became famous for, which is create value, but value for all stakeholders, not just one.
I positively love that. I think that that is the way we really need to galvanize this industry and the rally cry that we've been waiting for. So, thank you very much for articulating it that clearly. So, up next, we're going to be touching on a hot button issue across the entire industry. And we'll be right back after this.
Ryan, you know what really grinds my gears?
Well, I can definitely think of a couple things, but none of the ones that are coming to mind have anything to do with the ANA, which I suspect is what this is going to be about, since this is an ad for the ANA.
Yeah, since you mentioned it, I am kind of an irritable person. But you're right. It has nothing to do with any of my usual picadillos.
Good. Hit me with a new one.
Yeah, for once. It grinds my gears just thinking that there are ANA members out there in the world lacking insights.
Yeah.
Resource poor.
Mm.
And for no good reason.
That's what I was thinking. It's really a needless struggle.
Yeah, because unbeknownst to them, they have an ocean of insights and resources and perspectives and tools at their fingertips, Ryan.
Really?
Yes.
Well, tell me more.
I would love to. You see, the ANA takes pride in enabling marketers to make better decisions by providing smart insights and helpful resources across a wide range of topics. What topics might those be? All of marketing only.
Is there a topic in marketing that you can think of? It's covered.
Yeah,
it's covered.
Absolutely.
I guarantee it
augmented
is.
reality. Okay, smart Alec, covered.
We've even got stuff on the metaverse. No one's talking about that anymore.
Yeah.
It's covered.
Precisely.
It's covered. Stuff that you don't even need to cover.
Yeah, there's stuff you don't know about your own
So
job.
imagine
that we
all the
have
stuff
covered.
that you need to cover.
For goodness sake.
Yes.
Yeah, and so, our Marketing Knowledge Center is like a cheat code for success. Do you know why? It's like a cheat code for success, Ryan.
Why? Why is that?
Well, because it's packed with playbooks, tools, research, case studies, perspectives, videos, and the best podcast in the whole dang industry.
Oh, yeah.
Are you excited about this?
I'm thrilled right now.
Listeners, are you excited about this? Because if you are, you should head to ana.net/MKC and turn your marketing game from good to unstoppable. And now back to our show.
We are back. Today's episode of On Scope, we are talking about balancing growth and sustainability with Rupen Desai, CMO and venture partner of Una Terra. Rupen, I would feel irresponsible if I didn't at least briefly bring up AI, the big mechanical gorilla in the room that's been around for decades, but Gen AI in particular has been the talk of the town for a year plus now. I want to get your thoughts on AI and how do we incorporate AI into society in a sustainable, responsible way? Because I think we're already on the verge of a slippery slope. What do you think?
So one is, I was curious before we started chatting, Michael, if you were ever going to bring what seems to be the hot topic of the last 12 months of our life, AI. Okay. And look, technology has always helped us till it doesn't.
Yep.
I mean, maybe as I respond to this, I want to separate the potential and the potency of technology versus the use and or the abuse of technology. So even if we start on on the big transformation 2.0 before we even get to AI and 3.0. The two realizations I have looking back is we missed the governance structure on 2.0.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so when you looked at social media, when you looked at the big transformation, now we're all spending and not just us as humans or users, but us as marketeers or even governments. Because we missed the governance of 2.0 right at the start, today, we see the spread of hatred. We see the spread of lies, the amount
Mm-hmm.
of grave harm it's doing to the world, misinformation, disinformation. Hate speech is fueling prejudice and violence. I mean, spreading exponentially divisions and conflicts, and our inability to control it. So the one big thought I have, and I'm right now talking about the use and the abuse of it, is it is absolutely imperative, if we haven't missed it already, that we don't miss the required checks and balances and governance required for AI. Because
Mm-hmm.
the potential of AI is to do everything 2.0 did and everything we want to be done much faster, much crazier, much exponential, and we don't even know where this potential would end. So,
Mm-hmm.
do I believe in science and technology helping us to reach the kind of world and the kind of business we want to be in? Absolutely. Do I also foresee a whole host of issues if we don't get governance right? I do. And I mean, we need to dream about a world where, because of this technology, because of AI, the 132 years it's going to take us to reach gender equity becomes 13.2 years and becomes
Mm-hmm.
zero. We need
Yeah.
to think of a world. I mean, you know, there was this reel I saw where a lady was complaining, saying, "Look, I need AI to wash my dishes and do the floors so that I can do art and better music.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want AI to be doing better art and better music while our inequities continue, our hard work continues, our rat race continues." So sorry, I'm going all over the place. Do I
No,
believe?
honestly, Ruben, I was gonna bring that exact meme or that exact post up. I'm so glad you did it. Every time I see like something that looks like a CGI made by a 13-year-old, I'm like, that's a hectare of the rainforest you just messed up. And we're still not using this to like. I mean, I know that it's being used in health, but we should be curing diseases before we're trying to make movies and songs.
And again, we should not look at it unilaterally, because the interdependence between technology, people, and planet. So, is AI helping us reach a more equitable world, or is it going to accelerate the biases we already have around gender, around color, around creed? And when you look at the planet, I mean, there is a reason most technology companies have backtracked on their sustainability promises, because when we're talking about AI, none of us are talking about the amount of water required to cool and make the technology work. None of us are talking about the electricity. None of us are
Mm-hmm.
talking about this amazing, crazy size data centers that are being set up by most of the large platforms, but nobody's talking about, therefore, what is the planet impact of that. So I think it's a much more complex topic. We just shouldn't become singularly excited about, look at my next Christmas ad being done by AI, but can I use the technology to change some of the inequities? Can I use the AI to change the speed at which we won't reach I mean, 2 degrees is now a given. 3 degrees is what we need to avoid in terms of the planetary boundaries. And how do we take the conversation of AI to be more I mean, you asked this in your question, Michael,
Yeah.
and use two words, which is how do we incorporate AI in society in a responsible and a sustainable way? And I think the two discussions of responsibility and sustainability have to be woven with the potential that this amazing new world brings for us.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And this is the conversation that needs to be had, like you said, now. If not, goodness willing, it's not too late, but the conversation is an urgent one around what's really happening every time you're letting a platform write a thank you letter for you. That we really need to have a deeper conversation, and I'm glad that the seeds of that are at least beginning between you and I right now. And I promise to keep beating this drum throughout the ANA and bothering you for any opportunity I can to have you help me out. And so, one thing above everything we've already talked about is that this grab for unending growth, the big tech giants walking back their sustainability promises, this is fostering cynicism on a level that, at least in my 4 decades on this planet, I have never seen anything like this. To the point of where many young people don't don't care for, or they're very skeptical. Let me say it this way. They're very skeptical of capitalism and yearn for a new system overall. That's where it is. Some people are looking at this entire thing and like, is this entire thing something that needs to go? So, how can brands and businesses and leaders begin to convince younger generations that capitalism can be part of the solution?
I am yet to come across a better system than capitalism. And I think again we will have to separate capitalism as a concept from the way we've abused it.
Mm-hmm.
And in that, my offer, whether it is to the skeptics, whether it is to the converted, whether it is to the undecided, uh, are one, two, three, four, five, six words. Long-term well-being for all being the ultimate purpose, whether it is for a company, whether it is for an individual's life, whether it is for government.
Mm-hmm.
So well-being economy uses the system of capitalism, but what it does is it engages society in setting well-being outcomes.
Mm.
Air we breathe, the health we enjoy, the stuff we share, I mean, well-being as an ultimate purpose, and then left to common goods needed for flourishing and individuals having the ability to shape the market, the means we achieve the well-being, will put a stop to the mindless consumerism we've created. Will put a stop to the let's upsize every unhealthy meal. Will put a stop to planned obsolescence if governments, companies, CEOs, C-suites, you and me as individuals, our children, all are living a different outcome, which is long-term well-being for all. I
Yeah.
mean, sustainable living is about fulfilling the needs of our generation without taking away what can serve the future generations. And when you look at Earth Overshoot Day, and in
Mm-hmm.
2024, I think it was 1st of August. But what it tells us is you and I have used everything the Earth generated in the year, and we finished it by end of July. That means the
Yeah.
month of August, September, October, November, and December is what we stole from our future generation.
Huh.
So I am yet to come across a better system than capitalism, but I want to have a genuine debate about what would capitalism that serves an outcome of long-term well-being for all look like. because I suspect, and whatever I've read and whatever I believe in, and obviously I'm learning each and every day, is capitalism unleashed for those six words, you
Hmm.
know,
Yeah.
LTWP for all, might help us reach a equitable multi-stakeholder growth rather than just return on financial capital being the load and the master at the cost of degenerative return on the planet of people.
Hmm. Yeah, and really that is just kind of a brilliant way of summing it up, and it kind of mirrors in a lot of way religions. At the center of almost every major religion is love and community and support and acceptance and understanding, but it's a very easy to throw that into a system that starts to pervert the original intent and can use the same words and scriptures and books to foster divisiveness and hatred and bigotry. So yeah, I think that it is, at the very end of the day, it is a system. How are we going to use the system? What does success look like in our shared minds? I think that's really a beautiful way to think
Michael,
about it.
this isn't a new thing. So
Mhm.
if you go back to, let's say, when a company like Unilever was created, and I'm happy to share. I saw a map that was created of port sunlight. So
Mm.
the first product that was created, one of the first products that was created because they wanted to better health for everyone. But the blueprint had a factory, had a school, thought about the community, thought about better health, and therefore a company was created uh, to have multi-stakeholder prosperity. When you
Mhm.
look at the start of a company called Mars,
Mhm.
okay, multi-stakeholder prosperity was at the heart of the start. When you look at the credo of Johnson and Johnson, multi-stakeholder prosperity is built in this 100 plus credo that is they proudly put. Any You go to any Johnson office in the world, and they everybody proudly puts the credo. So this isn't a new thing. It's not that it's alien to business. It is that the last 4 or 5 decades, and thank you, Milton Friedman,
Mhm.
or not,
Yeah.
uh, we have we have believed that prosperity can be short linked to unhealthy growth, can be short circuited to profit, and I don't care about people, community, equity, or a sustainable planet, and that needs to change.
Here, here. And speaking of that, I want to first of all thank you so very much. And before we get to the last question, because I don't want to, this is we've got some serious work to do. This is a very serious issue, but I want to end with a little bit of light. If people are as passionate about this as I am and want to learn more about Una Terra and the work you're doing, how can they check you out online or elsewhere to see what you're up to?
Look, a lot of us who have been practitioners in business were part of the forming, I mean, of Una Terra, because the belief is, let's try and change what return on financial capital can do in addition to return on planetary capital, return on societal capital.
Mm.
Or whether it is the advisory company we have called the Shed 28, both of them have websites. But the easiest way is just reach out, write to me on LinkedIn. Let's have a chat. Because each and every one of us, as we exist today, has a superpower. We're using it for something. My
Hmm.
superpower can be I can set up a great event. My superpower can be I can write great copy. My superpower can be I can make great art. My superpower can be I can generate amazing returns at the end of every quarter, or I know how to make a pricing strategy, or and I think those superpowers are what we need, all of us collectively, because our in this journey, our A is far larger than our R. Our A, which is our ambition, is far larger than the resources any company will have, because we are looking to change the Truman Show. We're looking to change what's been fed, what's been celebrated, what we've learned from. I mean, it's a sliding doors moment. Sorry, I'm using too many movie analogies, but
You're actually ticking every box. I love both of those movies, so keep
yeah,
going.
a sliding doors moment is either on the brink of a world that is collapsing, or using our superpower so we can pivot it into something that is different, that is transformational, that generates long-term well-being. So I think, look, and it also gives you so much more meaning as a human. I mean, I have a choice. I can use every superpower I have to sell sugary water and plastic, or I can even convince the same company to use their superpowers to sell healthier stuff so that the world has less obesity and less plastic. So, I mean, as a race, I think it is time for us to move from being a movement of leaders to probably a leaderful movement.
Mm. Yeah, and I honestly, if we're gonna go on movie references, I'll add one more. This feels like an Avengers Assemble moment
Yeah.
for the marketing industry. I really love how you put it. We all have these superpowers. We can use them how we want to. And so I really do hope people reach out to you. If they want to reach out through us, I'm happy to make the connection. But Rupen, before we leave you off into this good day, what gives you hope for the future?
My daughters do. My daughters do.
Mm.
I mean, look, I'm surrounded by super strong women, and I love it. I was born to a super strong mother that shaped a lot of my formative years. I'm married to a wonderful, super strong woman, and together we have two amazing girls. And at some point, when I look into their eyes, or I imagine this conversation about, so Papa, what did you spend your life on, apart from obviously making some money and making sure we were educated and we grew up with the right values? And I want to be able to tell them that I used my superpowers to make one small dent, whether on equity, society, or the planet. But I love marketing. I love communication. I love brands. I love advertising. It's the only thing I've known. And I'm going to use all of those superpowers and my optimism and hope so that they think I'm cool Papa Desai
Hmm.
at the end of it all.
Yeah, I think that's a beautiful thing. And Rupen, I think you're cool right now, so I think you're on your way to a very successful future conversation. Thank you so much for being a guest on Scope.
Thank you for having me, Michael, and allowing me uh, to share my views. Thank you so much.
And that's it, folks. Another episode of On Scope, the marketing podcast, is in the can. I want to thank my guest, Rupen Desai, for having a conversation with me that honestly I've wanted to have since I joined the ANA almost 11 years ago. There's a sobering truth to unchecked growth that we all need to come face to face with. Our community needs to have these discussions. We're just getting the ball rolling here. This is bigger than business. This is all of our futures. And on that note, I'd like to share with you this moment of marketing meditation. Close your eyes, relax your shoulders, and listen to these words from novelist and poet Wendell Berry. The earth is what we all have in common. Think on that, and I'll see you next week.